The 1998 US 500 was an action-packed 230-mile-per-hour wheel-to-wheel blast from green flag to checkered. It saw more lead changes than any other event and overtaking at every point around the 2-mile Michigan Speedway. It was called the best race in kart history. Perhaps history will be rewritten today. The US 500 is round 12 of the FedEx Championship Series. Hello and welcome from Ben Edwards and Jeremy Shaw. We're at the Michigan Speedway this weekend in the Irish Hills region of Michigan State. We're about an hour and a half drive west from Detroit, and of course Motor City, very important when it comes to motorsport, the lovely scenic part of Michigan.
Beautiful part of the world here. Look at those bright green trees and a bright blue sky as well. Actually picture perfect conditions here, but quite a strong breeze is coming in from the west. That could play havoc with the team's gear ratios this afternoon.
Let's take a look at the grid then. Jimmy Vasser on his 6th front row starts in the last 7 500-mile races. Adrian Fernandez alongside was the winner at Motegi earlier this year. Juan Montoya starts in the 2nd row in his first ever 500-mile race. Michael Andretti's a twice winner here.
Row 3 of the grid, Scott Pruitt, the best ever qualifying position for Toyota. Alongside him, Max Papis, who ironically spent 2.5 years developing that particular engine. On row 4, Papis' teammate Brian Herter and Paul Tracy. Led here 3 times in the past, not yet won. His 2nd place, the best finish.
5th row, Dario Franchitti, who's never finished a 500-mile race. Cristiano D'Amata, who's never started one, although he raced here in Indy Lights. Then it's Tony Kanaan on row 6 of the grid. His best result this year, 5th. And Patrick Carpentier, who was 8th here last year.
Row 7 of the grid, Roberto Moreno, career best 3rd place finish for Peyton Coyne in '96, and teammate Mauricio Gugelmin, his 100th Champ Car start. Alongside it's Gil de Ferran on row 8, another Brazilian Christian Fittipaldi, really going well in his last few races.
Alonso Jr. is on row 9, back in the Penske chassis, and joined by a new teammate, Alex Barron, also racing for Team Penske. Then Helio Castroneves on row 10 in the Lola, and alongside him, the man who had a great run here last year, Richie Hearn.
21st on the grid is Greg Moore. He won this race last year from 14th. He's delighted with the car, and PJ Jones not so happy with the Swift. Dennis Vitolo on row 12, a career best 7th place finish here 2 years ago, and Walter Salas still trying to get the Eagle up to speed.
On the last row, Robbie Gordon, who came close to winning the Indy 500 this year, and Michel Jourdain Jr., no time recorded for him. His car was deemed to be underweight at the end of yesterday's qualifying. The cars are just making their way out of pit lane onto this 2-mile speedway, and amongst the cars out there today, we have 5 former winners of the event here. Let's take a look back. 1989, Michael Andretti won this race. In fact, it was the 2nd time he'd won it. He also won it in 1987, and he's led more laps here than anybody else.
1 year later, his lifelong friend and rival, Alonso Jr., won this race for Gallers Racing.
In 1995, it was a first-time winner who got to the flag fractions ahead of Alonso Jr. In this case, it was Scott Pruitt.
In 1996, it was Jimmy Vasser's turn. His first ever US 500 won $1 million for Chip Ganassi.
And last year, Greg Moore came through to take victory narrowly ahead of the Ganassi pair. So we really do have a great battle developing in the series now. Neither Montoya, who's never done a 500-mile race, nor Franchitti, who hasn't finished a 500-mile, although he's done 4 or so of them now. They're perhaps not favourites to win here today, but then who can you say is a favourite? We're just checking through our onboard cameras. Michael Andretti, I suppose, you've got to consider as one of the favourites, although he's had so much bad luck here in the past at this racetrack. Just amazing. He had a run of 9 non-finishes at one stage, and we also have an onboard camera with this man who could be a key player, Jimmy Vasser.
And as I said, that car has won twice this season already, albeit in the hands of Juan Montoya. Here we are, though, coming up for the start of 250 laps.
Yeah, there's a long way to go here this afternoon. No green. And you can hit the radio. And indeed, they don't get the start underway. So Jimmy Vasser, they will be scoring at this point. Of course, it will be a lap in the books, but they don't get the start because they weren't lined up very well. Jimmy Vasser was quite a long way ahead there of Adrian Fernandez.
Yes, he was. The field was very well strung out there and all higgledy-piggledy, and not good enough for Jim Swintoll, the official starter of kart. He says, no, not this time, gentlemen. Try it again one more time, please. Get yourself in better order, and then I will give you the green flag.
Look at the analysis of this race, 250 laps. That will last for nigh on 3 hours. It is a long race this afternoon. Top speeds with a draft, that's with the tow, 245 miles an hour. 4 Gs pulled through the corners. It's a high banking, 18-degree banking here at Michigan. So the drivers putting up with high G-forces all the way through the race. Ready for the race to get underway here at the Michigan Speedway. Jimmy Vasser leads them round from pole position. Are they going to get the green flag this time as they head down towards the start-finish? Yes, it is green, and Jimmy Vasser leads as we go into the start of a long afternoon. And Montoya goes straight past his teammate Jimmy Vasser and takes over the lead of the race. And look at Michael Andretti flashing past on the outside. They picked up the tow, and slipstreaming will be the name of the game here today. It is the third 500-mile race to be run with the so-called Hanford wing. It is a blocker wing. It's like putting a parachute to these drivers, and it produces the most amazing slipstream effect. And Michael Andretti is using the tow here from Juan Montoya.
And there he goes, they're down to the inside, and he takes the lead as they go into turn one. Montoya on the outside, Andretti on the inside. Not quite sure which is the preferred line, obviously, this time of the race. It's Andretti, he takes the lead. They're going through turn two, onto the back straight. Fernandez in third, Jimmy Vasser fourth, behind him, Papin, Tracy, Pruitt, and Kanaan.
And straight back goes Montoya. He retakes the lead because he picks up the tow from Michael Andretti's car. It's all about which car is ahead, making the hole in the air, and the car behind is sucked along and drawn past. And again, it looks as though Michael Andretti may well slipstream back past Montoya as they go down towards turn one. He takes the low line on the inside, straight back past the Colombian, who is having his first real experience of this kind of racing. Fernandez runs third, Vasser is fourth, then it's Max Papis in fifth, Paul Tracy sixth, Tony Kanaan in seventh, as again the two leaders slipstream past one another up at the top end of the track through turns 3 and 4. Just listening on board with Michael Andretti here. That Ford Cosworth V8 engine. Look at the speed gained as he picks up the slipstream, goes to the inside. Montoya gives him room, and away they go again. And if they can work effectively together, they may well make a break from the others behind them. Indeed, Adrian Fernandez running a little bit on his own, although he should still get a little bit of a slipstream effect from those cars ahead. Montoya moves back ahead of Michael Andretti. Last year there were over 60 changes of lead, and the way it's going at the moment, it'll be back up in the 60s again here today.
Great stuff, but as we have so far, since the green flag is thrown, in actual fact, Montoya officially has led all 4 laps. That's 5 laps in the books now. Each time, Montoya has been in the lead as they cross the start-finish line. However, as we saw there goes Michael Andretti once again ahead into turn 1. Will he make it stick this time? No, I don't think he will. Here comes Montoya again. Amazing stuff, isn't it? And this is 6 laps on the 6th lap, and there goes Tony Kanaan. They're making a move on Paul Tracy down to the inside.
Got to be careful not to go over that white line, Jeremy. We saw in the Indy Lights race yesterday a number of drivers being penalised for dropping below the white line, and it's something they will have to be cautious of in this race too.
Yeah, I don't think the Champ Car drivers have the same penalty in effect as did the Indy Lights guys yesterday. Certainly, as far as the Indy Lights cars, they're not going quite so fast around here, but nor are the drivers as experienced as the Champ Car field. So, as a precaution, if you get below that white line now, particularly in the turns, you get off the banking and onto what they call the apron, the flat part of the track, and it's that transition off the banking onto the apron that can really upset the car and cause all sorts of nasty things to the drivers. So that's why the Indy Lights guys had that penalty yesterday.
Michael Andretti goes to the outside this time. Montoya decides to stay down low. Doesn't make any difference. Michael still goes straight past the red Target-sponsored Reynard of Juan Montoya, and it is the black Swift of Michael Andretti that goes ahead once more. Great stuff to watch this, and it looks as though he might just hold on to it for a fraction longer this time. We are coming around to complete 8 laps this time, and indeed, he managed to pull out a little bit, and I think that's the first time across the stripe that Michael Andretti has officially led this race.
That is correct, Ben, and that is the 8th lap in the books now, and Michael Andretti, as you say, and his lap time there, 32.7. That equates to just around about 220 miles an hour, so pretty conservative pace at this stage in the race. The pole time was 2:29.6. That was by Jimmy Vasser, of course, yesterday. But in the draft yesterday in practice, the speed, they were turning speeds as high as 233 miles an hour. That's the average speed.
That's the average speed. It's incredible to watch, and unfortunately, you don't always get an impression of that on TV as Montoya goes back past Michael Andretti. And just imagine for yourself for a moment, sitting in the cockpit of that car with Michael Andretti. Here you are, and you're going through this corner at 220 miles an hour, or just under maybe 218, and now you build up as you head down that backstretch to over 235 miles an hour, and you're just inches away from the car ahead, battling for the lead in the early stages of the US 500. So Michael Andretti and Juan Montoya continue their tussle up front. Let's just quickly identify some of the potential front runners and where they're lying. Fernandez is in third. Jimmy Vasser in the Superman colours. He's in fourth. That's the blue and red car. Not so familiar. Papis fifth. Tracy is in sixth. Then it's Kanaan, D'Amata, Franchitti, Pruitt. Little Al is up into 11th. We'll keep an eye out for him. Alonso Jr. and Tracy battling over 7th place. But meanwhile, Michael Andretti has opened up a little bit of a gap. 2 seconds, which is really quite a lot around this track. Because if you can get away from your opponents, get away from them towing past you, that's pretty impressive. And Michael has opened up a 2.5 second advantage now as they go across the line again over Juan Montoya, with Adrian Fernandez running in third place, about a second behind Montoya. Jimmy Vasser in fourth, then Papis, D'Amata, Tracy, then Alonso Jr. in eighth, Tony Kanaan ninth, with Alex Barron in the Penske in 10th, followed by Franchitti, Greg Moore now in 12th, with Scott Pruitt having gone down to 13th. Christian Fittipaldi struggling a bit. He's dropped down to 14th position. Richie Hearn 15th, Brian Herta in 16th. Then it's Patrick Carpentier, Gilles de Ferran, Maurizio Gutermin, and Michel Jourdain Jr.
Yeah, you talked there of Gilles de Ferran. He's certainly slipped back a long way. He was running early stages of the race around about the bottom end of the top 10 or 12th or so. He's now slipped back to 18th position, Gilles de Ferran, just ahead of Maurizio Gugelmin, and he's in danger of getting a lap down. But look at these two. That is Tony Kanaan and Dario Franchitti side by side in turn 3 in pursuit there of the red and white car of Alex Barron.
Oh, it's good stuff. Great battling going on everywhere as Montoya come past our commentary position. I've just seen Castroneves go back out of the pits again. He seems to be having a bit of a tough time. That, in fact, I think that's Paul Tracy with Little Al we're watching at the moment. That is the battle for 7th place. Alonso Jr. in the number 2 car with Paul Tracy, the first of the Team Green cars at the moment. Franchitti is in 11th position. Moreno has been into the pits already. They changed the rear wing setting on that car. They changed the rear wicker or rear gurney flap on the back of the wing. And there was apparently an alarm on Dario Franchitti's car about tyre pressure. But
where's Montoya? I think Montoya is in the pits. Juan Montoya is in the pits. We've got 35 laps in the book. So around about time for the first round of pit stops. And here he comes. Here comes Juan Montoya. Pulls into the pits. And they will go to work. 35 gallons of fuel. 4 fresh Firestone tyres for Juan Montoya.
Watch your speed leaving the pits. Ready?
On the radio. 50 mile an hour limit.
Go. Good job.
And a clean start from Juan Montoya. The first of the leaders to stop. Now that's interesting. Whether that means he's using a little bit more fuel than the others, we'll wait and see how many laps. There is Fernandez. So we've seen a Honda-powered car in, and now we see a Ford-powered car into the pits. 1 lap later. New set of tyres on this one as well. They will have been scrubbed in during the practice sessions, these tyres, waiting for 35 gallons of methanol to go on board and then try to get out of the pits cleanly. And there is a car, Max Papis coming in. In comes Michael Andretti now, the race leader, before this first round of pit stops. Down to 50 miles an hour, which feels like walking pace after you've been out there doing 240 miles an hour at the end of the straight. But they have to keep to that speed limit, otherwise they'll pick up the penalty and do a drive-through penalty. So, Michael into the Newman Haas pit, right down at the end of the pit lane, the Newman Haas pit, and we've got a helmet camera on one of the crew members this time, which is fun to watch. So as he fits that right front wheel, has a look around, checks to see everything's clear, and then we wait for the fuel men to complete their task. Down goes the car, away it is, and a good clean stop. But is he going to get out ahead of Juan Montoya? Building up to speed, and of course, because he's down at that end of the pits, it means that he's got a little bit more chance. He doesn't have to go on to the speed limiter. Montoya's gone past us. going to be a battle on the backstretch between Montoya and Andretti as Paul Tracy comes into the pit lane.
Right on.
Paul Tracy coming in from the battle for 7th. Let's listen to the radio again. Dario Franchini's in at the same time. Those two cars stopping.
Wheels are done. Wheels are done.
Virtually in front of our commentary position.
Watch your mirror, Paul. Watch your mirror.
Being warned about both Dennis Vitola. Good clean stop though from Tracy. And away goes Dario Franchini a little behind him. So the first round of pit stops going ahead so far without problem. I can see Greg Moore, Maurizio Guterman just leaving the pit lane as well. And so far so good. Everybody seems to have got through cleanly as we wait to see who managed to get the advantage. Now I think Michael Andretti has the advantage. Yes, he does. He is still ahead of Juan Montoya. The gap between them, 1.4 seconds. So Montoya gained a second thereabouts in the round of stops there. The gap between them had been 2.5. It's now 1.4. But Michael Andretti remains in front here at the US 500 after 39 laps have been completed. Montoya goes through in second. Jimmy Vasser has moved up into third place as a result of those stops. Max Papp is now fourth, and Fernandez lost a fair bit of time. He's dropped down to fifth place, so there's a little bit of a surprise. Adrian Fernandez in the Patrick Racing car, Ford Cosworth Power, he has dropped to fifth place. Tony Kanaan is in sixth, and then Al Unser Jr. is in seventh place. The view from above as they head down the back stretch. And Michael Andretti again trying to distance himself a little bit from Juan Montoya through turns 3 and 4 and then past the front stretch grandstands. Coming up to lap, Maurizio Guterman once again. 60 laps have been completed here. That still means there's 190 to go. And there's been a big accident of Ferran in the wall. I'm just looking at that, trying to make out what it was. Gilles de Ferran has hit the wall. The man who was battling to stay on the lead lap. Andretti has got away from him, but Gilles de Ferran is smacked the wall very hard indeed.
Yeah, he had got away from de Ferran, as you say. He pulled away quite substantially. He actually extended the lead to the second place car of Juan Montoya to over 3 seconds. And de Ferran there was embroiled in the battle, really, with the two target Chip Ganassi cars, also with Max Papis in the throes of that as well. So, as you say, heavy impact there. And here's a replay. You can see there de Ferran on the outside, on the left-hand side of the screen, and coming up alongside him is Juan Montoya, and he just gets high into the grey there, does de Ferran, understeers up high, hits the wall, and then he goes for a very uncomfortable ride down the back straight.
So he just got it a little bit wrong. He'd been running that higher line throughout the race so far. Look up on the grey, and then no chance. It just swipes off all the right-hand side of the car instantaneously. Everybody else slowing down. Bits of carbon fibre, bits of rubber flying through the air there. And Gilles de Ferran, ironically, who needed a yellow flag to try and get back onto the tail of the leaders, has in fact caused the first caution period here this afternoon. We've made it through to lap number 61. First caution has come out about 20 laps earlier than it did here last year, after many people expected last year a huge number of accidents in the first part of the race. In fact, it was incredibly clean. But today, it is Gilles de Ferran that causes the first caution period. Let's take another look at it once again. Up wide. And once you get up wide there's just no traction. The cars aren't running up that high throughout practice and qualifying. Let's take a look at what it looked like from onboard camera.
Let's listen to it as well. I think he had some kind of mechanical problem for sure there, but he was off the throttle there for quite a long time. And when you're off the throttle, you don't have the torque to drive you through the corner and off onto the straight. I believe that there was some kind of a mechanical problem that caused Gilles de Ferran to run up high there. I don't think it was just a simple understeer complaint.
Well, no doubt we will find out once he makes it back to the pits. And in fact, the pits are about to be extremely busy because the pit lane is open and we expect to see most of the front runners coming into the pits any moment, and we'll try and keep track of who does what in the pit lane. It will be critical, of course, because they've all been bunched up behind the pace car now, and it could be a difference in position if they get out a little bit faster. Meanwhile, Gilles de Ferran will be taken off to the medical centre, of course, standard procedure, and there's the view in the pit lane. Everybody just about out, ready for their cars to come in.
It was good, of course, though, to see Gilles de Ferran out of that car, walking around, surveying the damage there, and he hopped into the ambulance under his own steam, and as you say, a precautionary checkup But the good news, I think, the good signs there for Gilles de Ferran as Michael Andretti leads the field onto pit lane.
Here we go then. This is the battle in the pits once again. Now, remember, so many things to think about that can go wrong. We saw last week Juan Montoya getting into trouble for clipping an air hose, and that dropped him back down the order in Toronto. We saw Gilles de Ferran clip a wheel in at the pits. He had to come in for a penalty. There are so many things that can go wrong in these pit stops. Papis, you see, look, he got two sideways, and that concrete area that they actually do the pit stop on has a different grip level to the tarmac on the outside, so that's something else they have to be very wary of. Quick stop from Andretti, though, and that's got him out ahead of everybody else. So Michael Andretti and the Newman Haas crew doing a fantastic job. Looks like Forsyth did a great job for Tony Kanaan. He looks to me as though he's made up a few places, and everybody else now making their way out of the pit lane except Greg Moore. Apparently Moore has stalled it. There they are, trying to sort the car out.
Yeah, he has stalled it. He was actually last of the leaders to come in. He was the last car on the lead lap in 14th place, but clearly more of a problem there for Greg Moore. They can't seem to get that car fired up, and there they come with a jack, get it off the ground and pull it back into the pits where they can plug in the onboard starter, or the external starter, I should say, of course. Plug that in and get the car fired up again. He's lucky. The good news is, of course, it is under caution, and if that's all the problem is, they should be able to restart it and get him out in the race. But
it's more than that.
Much more than that.
It's more than that. He's shaking his head.
Yeah, there's the signal there to cut the engine off.
Yeah, it's all over. There's some sort of major problem for Moore's car. It's not a straightforward stalled engine. And, well, hopefully we'll get to find out fairly soon what has happened there. Michael Andretti leads them round under this caution period as Gilles de Ferran's stricken car is carried away.
Here we go, back to Great Van Racing, and Andretti Montoya makes his move.
Juan Montoya straight ahead of Michael Andretti. Just like the start of this race, it looks as though we're in for a two-way battle up front as these two swap positions. But remember now, in third place, it is Tony Kanaan, who has moved up after that last round of pit stop. He's got Max Papis behind him, and Papis has been running very quickly here all weekend, in fact. As you look further down the field, Jimmy Vasser trying to get past Franchitti, I think that is. And Franchitti, obviously in that group, but in fact a lap danger of going a lap down. Not quite yet. No, he's still pretty much.
Yeah, they're all pretty closely matched there, Ben. But certainly, Jimmy Vasser certainly did lose a lot of ground at that restart. He's fallen way back to 7th place. He took the restart in 5th, lost a couple of positions, and Paul Tracy, the big mover there, came up from 9th to 6th.
So Paul Tracy gaining a lot of places. You're watching Cristiano De Mata and Scott Pruitt in the background, the two teammates at Arciero Wells with the Toyota Power. PJ Jones moving down to the inside as well, as Jimmy Vasser continues to battle with Paul Tracy. So Tracy and Vasser having a very good tussle. Cristiano De Mata, no, it is Franchitti. I'm getting a bit confused here because I haven't updated the timing and scoring. Let's just see. Franchitti has moved up to 7th place, and Vasser's back down to 8th. So now Paul Tracy is in 6th, Franchitti is 7th, and Jimmy Vasser is now down to 8th place. So it really was a poor restart for Jimmy Vasser.
And Adrian Fernandez too, he's been running so strongly early stages of the race. He was back actually down to 7th before that round of pit stops. We started in 7th place and now is back to 10th.
Moving up, meanwhile, is Christian Fittipaldi. He is in 13th position, battling with Patrick Carpentier. You look back from Richie Hearn's car at this point. Richie's running 12th. You're watching Alex Barron. Oh, Alex Barron being squeezed down to the inside. As you can see, that was all very close indeed. Carpentier and Fittipaldi, all of them absolutely together there. And Alex Barron almost over the line in his attempt to find a little bit of space. 74 laps have been completed, 176 laps still to go. And we're just hearing that the reason that Maurizio Guterman retired was that a piece of debris, presumably from Gilles de Ferran's accident, actually damaged the oil cooler on his car. So that was a bizarre accident, and poor old Maurizio Guterman out of the race. It doesn't look as though the 100th race for Pac West is going to be a particularly auspicious race for them, with Roberto Moreno already struggling here this afternoon, although he is still running. So it's Montoya up front, or is it? No, it's Andretti. The two of them are swapping every moment. Let's see as they come across the line.
That was about half a mile ago, Ben. It's Juan Montoya again now, moved fast down the back straight, and there's the battle for 3rd place. Juan Montoya is in 2nd, and there Kanaan trying to hold off Max Papis. Those two also, Papis Papis and Canaan have exchanged places a couple of times over the last 2 laps. And of course, a great rivalry here. Both the Forsyth Championship team, that's the McDonald's car, Tony Canaan, and Max Papis there trying to move down the inside. And look, Papis there was actually signalling across to Canaan. The rear wicker has seemed to come loose on Canaan's car. You can see it flapping in the wind. The top edge of that trailing edge of that rear wing.
Yes, it did look as though Canaan, look at it, you can see it clearly there, top left of your screen, and Tony Canaan, that is the strip that runs along the back of the wing, and he's lost radio communication to his pit crew as well, apparently, so that means he's not hearing much about this. They are going to black flag him, and he can see that, I should think, in his mirror perhaps, particularly if he moved it a little bit. He may well be able to see that in his mirror and realise he's backed off, he's heading towards the pits. And what a disappointment, because they've got him up into third position on that last round of pit stops, and now all that valuable time that they made up is going to be thrown away as he makes a pit stop to have that wicker replaced. Up front, Andretti, Montoya swapping all the time, and just a fraction of a second between them. Max Papis running very strongly in third place, but watch out for Alonso Jr., who now has come up to fourth position. Montoya goes back to the inside, retakes the lead from Michael Andretti. Interesting view on board with Michael as Montoya comes back past him, and now he will pick up the slipstream once again and once again move to the inside. Montoya just leaves the door open. There's no point in trying to block him at this stage in the race, still very, very early. In fact, Andretti doesn't quite make the move stick this time. Montoya was able to run a very high speed around the top of the corner. Into the pits comes Tony Kanaan, and you can clearly see that metal strip which is added to the rear wing, just runs on the back of the rear wing to increase the downforce. Let's see.
Most likely it's a carbon fibre strip, in fact, these days, and they're trying to get that one off there and get a new one on into that onto that rear wing, and he will lose a lap to the leader. So great disappointment for Tony Kanaan. That's really bad luck. They do, however, take the opportunity to fill up with methanol fuel as well, so that will give him a little bit of a cushion in terms of the fuel, but a bad break for the McDonald's team.
So now we look at our top four all together there. They've made a break from 5th place Paul Tracy, just coming into shot. Then it's Dario Franchitti and Cristiano D'Amata, with Jimmy Vasser running in 8th place. Fernandez 9th, Richie Hearn a good 10th place for Richie. He had a great result here last year and he's still well up in this one. Scott Pruitt in 11th as we watch that battle for 5th place between two teammates. Now, we have Philip Peter with us, the Indy Lights winner from yesterday. Philip, you worked very hard with your teammates to get a good position yesterday. Can you see perhaps the two Team Green cars working together to achieve what you achieved?
Yes, I mean the speed in the Champ car is obviously higher, and so you feel much more the draft. But in the Indy Lights car, you know, when you run together and you stay one behind the other and you race like just one car, you just pick up more speed. We tried in the warm-up and we could see that we were running 2-3 times faster than anybody else. So, you know, we agreed to do that, and I'm sure that the cool guys, they will try to do the same. You know, you have to work together. Here in this race, it's a teamwork, and with the draft, you can work forward yourself, and that's what they have to do. And if they start to overtake each other too much, they will lose the front group of them.
Alex Barron is in the pits, the second Penske in this race. He had got himself up into 13th place, and apparently they've got a problem on the air jacks. You can see how they're having to use manual jacks.
Oh, well, I was wondering why they fell off the lead lap, because he had been running very, very well in the early stages of the race. That was close there, wasn't it, between Papis and Montoya? But Alex Barron had lost a lap in that first sequence of pit stops. I bet it was because the air jacks failed there. He had actually regained the lead lap by not stopping during that previous caution. He was hoping for another yellow right away. It didn't happen. He has to come into the pits and gets back on the sequence and goes back one lap down. Shame for Alex Barron. But look, still a long way to go.
Look who's in front. It's Max Papis. Papis has actually taken the lead, and it's Andretti now back in third place. So Max Papis has suddenly come up front now, and he is now leading a race for the first time, I think. It is the first time that Max has been shown as a race leader, and he was looking forward to that opportunity when he set one of the fastest times here on Friday. Max Papis in a much more competitive car, of course, this year than he has been in previous years with Team Rahal. And there again, we're watching that battle for 5th between Paul Tracy and Dario Franchitti. And if anything, it's a bit of teamwork hopefully going on here between these two to help drag themselves a little closer to the top four. Alonso Jr. in 4th place. Dario Franchitti moving to the inside, gets past Tracy, and these two perhaps now using Dennis Vitolo's car as well to provide a bit more of a tow. There's Papis, our race leader. Behind him, Andretti and Juan Montoya do battle, as they have been pretty much throughout this race so far. But Max Papis, the 29-year-old Italian, great to see him out front now. His first season with Team Rahal. He's in his 51st start in the kart championship, and now he's leading a race. Michael Andretti on board with him, had a little think about moving into second again. Didn't quite work out. There's a car ahead of both of them. This might work out. Let's have a look. Double tow here. Picks up the tow from Montoya's car. Can he go down the inside into turn 3? Looks like it, but Montoya will try to stay around the outside as well. So Andretti goes back into second, but Papis has opened up a little bit of an advantage. Let's just see as they go across the line this time. 1.7 seconds, in fact. Max Papis ahead of these two by that much. Philip, you're just watching these two at the moment. A lot of swapping and changing going on.
Yeah, I think they are handling each other up at the moment, you know, and they're giving a good and great chance to Papis to leave them, you know. They're trying to overtake each other all the time, you know. They're slowing each other down in the corner, and it's good for Papis, so he can have a good run on them. They should a little bit work more together, but I think they're not closest friends either, so we'll see what they're going to do.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. It does look as though these two are so busy fighting each other. They're giving Papis the advantage. Still very early in the race. The important thing at this point in the race is to keep going and stay on the lead lap. Stay somewhere up near the front, but not necessarily to be leading. Papis enjoying his time up front at the moment, though. Andretti, Montoya, Unser, Franchitti now in that 5th place ahead of Paul Tracy. Cristiano De Mata still running well. He's in the first of the Toyota-powered cars. Brian Hurt has been struggling a little bit over the last few laps, though, and he comes into the pit.
Yeah, since that last caution period, he has really been struggling. He lost another lap to lead. He was 2 laps down when he came into the pits. Having lost that second lap, the crew decided, look, there's no point in staying out there. We might as well bring him in, get a fresh set of tyres on that, the full tank of fuel, and let's hope that the car will be improved. But another disappointing day for Brian Herter.
Yeah, everything going wrong for him this season. Doesn't look as though it's going to get any better at this stage. Al Unser Jr., though, in the Penske is enjoying his best run of the year so far. 4th position for him so far in this race, and it's been a strange season, of course. He broke his leg in the accident earlier on this year at the first race, had to sit out quite a few races before getting a chance to get back in the car at Nazareth. He suffered an accident there, then a 12th place finish in Rio. He's had a couple of finishes just in the points. His best result of the season came at that wet and dry race at Cleveland when he finished in 5th place. But he's a long way down in the points. Al Unser Jr. finds himself down in 17th position. And the twice former champion not at all happy about that. In fact, it's quite possible that we won't see Al Unser Jr. as a member of the Penske team next year. Now, what's going on just here? We're just watching Max Papis coming around, and he's right behind Alex Barron, I think. That's the other Penske. Of course, he's running down in 15th position. Shame that they have had those problems in the pits with the onboard jack, because Alex Barron's been doing a fine job this weekend in his first outing for Penske, and impressing there mightily with his speed on this fast speedway. Although next time out in Detroit, there will be yet another driver driving for Team Penske, and it's going to be Gonzalo Rodriguez. Supposedly, he will actually be testing this week at Mid-Ohio, and apparently they will decide on the result of that test to a large extent as to whether Rodriguez drives the car in Detroit. At the moment, Gonzalo Rodriguez driving in the International Formula 3000 Championship, but with a great opportunity to perhaps get out with Penske here in the Champ Car Series in 1999. Still watching this battle is Roberto Moreno. Max Papis started in 6th place, now leads this race, has led 9 laps so far. His best lap at 224 miles per hour. Most of the leaders lapping very consistently at about that pace. It's about 32.4 seconds per lap.
And the gap between Max Papis now and his pursuer, which is Michael Andretti, 2.8 seconds last time around, and Juan Montoya another a second and a half farther back in 3rd place. So that's Alex Barron about trying to stay on just 1 lap down, with Max Papis looming large in his mirrors. Barron, of course, is off the pit schedule from these race leaders, and he has fallen 1 lap behind. He doesn't want to lose another lap.
Papis is being guided to a certain extent by Bobby Rahal. In fact, Bobby is up on the roof of the grandstand acting as a spotter for Bobby Rahal. Now, most of the drivers have spotters in the race. One of these kind of races was on the radio to communicate to them when they're clear of other traffic, when they're dicing in the middle of a group perhaps, just where they can position the car. And of course, you couldn't get a much more experienced spotter than Bobby Rahal. And I'm sure Max Papis will be making the most of that. Meanwhile, further back, we're looking at the battle between Richie Hearn and Christian Fittipaldi, a battle for 11th position, this one. So somewhat further down the lead lap, but they're still having a good dice, these two. Scott Pruitt just a little further ahead of them. And in fact, of course, remember, Richie Hearn with the Toyota power, so is Scott Pruitt, so is Cristiano Da Matta. So that's 3 Toyota-powered cars running in the potential points positions here at the moment. Still early days, but here comes Christian Fittipaldi. Wonderful view of him picking up the slipstream and really gaining 3, 4, maybe up to as many as 7 miles an hour more to be able to blast past Richie Hearn's Budweiser car.
Great stuff there. And that group of cars at the end of the back straight, that is a battle for 6th, 7th and 8th there, as they're going past once again to lap for Roberto Moreno. Really is having a miserable day here. The whole pack West team having a miserable day. Gugelmin already out of the race, and here we are on board with Jimmy Vasser getting a big tow there up behind Cristiano Da Matta. Cristiano Da Matta, the rookie driver, in 7th place. Again, that Toyota engine really running strongly, as you say, Ben. 3 Toyotas in the top 11 places or so right now, 11 or 12, with Fittipaldi and Hearn exchanging positions fairly regularly, and all still on the lead lap.
Yeah, impressive stuff. In fact, the engine manufacturers had a little discussion at Ford Press Forum on Friday, and each of the manufacturers gave their summary on the season so far. That was an interesting to hear exactly how they felt it was all going. Listening to the Honda engine of Jimmy Vasser working pretty hard here.
But you can also hear him breathing out of the throttle there at the end of going into turn 1 there. And that shows again, as I say, that I talked about earlier on, that breathing off the throttle there going into the turns, it really does help the engines breathe a little bit better and maintain their reliability. And that is a crucial factor, again, has been brought around by this Hanford device rear wing.
Well, we've got some of the drivers who've gone out of this race down in pit lane, ready to tell us a bit. Let's hear from Maurizio Gugelmin.
But in that accident that Gilles de Ferran had, did you see that coming?
I got a report from my spotter on turn 1 that Gilles went wide, but when I got there, all I saw was a bunch of debris in debris in the air, and I had to pick my way through it, and unfortunately I got something on my radiator.
So that brought up the oil temperature, and then you lost the engine. How was the car and how was the track prior to that?
The car was balanced but was sliding a lot. I need more downforce. I think today is really warm, so the pace is about 10 miles an hour is lower than we expected. So we're not producing the same downforce because the air is so thin.
Yeah, but a guy from Brazil, he was doing okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Maurizio Gugelmin, just talking about the temperatures. It is about 91 degrees Fahrenheit here today. That's about 33 degrees Celsius. Very, very hot indeed, and that does affect the air conditions, as Maurizio was talking about. Completely affects the downforce on the car, and that's something engineers have to take into account as they run in the earlier in the morning. The morning warm-up, for example, was at 9:30 this morning. Cooler air temperatures meant greater amount of downforce. And then you're trying to set the car up for hotter conditions in the afternoon, perhaps not always allowing quite enough for those increase in temperatures. Meanwhile, the battle is going on. You're watching Jimmy Vasser there with Cristiano Da Matta and Paul Tracy. The battle for 6th place. Tracy under pressure from Cristiano Da Matta, and Da Matta moves through, but I'm sure Tracy will get that place back. Let's go back to the pits again.
This team must feel like your snakeman. You can't buy a break. We chronicled the problems. You changed the valve and everything today. How are you dealing with all this frustration?
It's really tough, Gary. You really do a good job. You really work very hard. I know also my guys doing a fantastic job and work very hard. It's just racing. Sometimes you're not doing well. I mean, the luck is not going on your side. You just have to keep trying, and one day you'll be okay.
That's what we love about the resiliency of this young guy. Keep trying. We'll see you in a couple of weeks in Detroit.
I'll see you there.
Yes, let's hope Castroneves has better luck in Detroit. Walter Salas has been into the pits, just making his way out of the pit lane again, still running. He's in 17th place, but some 6 laps behind the leaders, as Christian Fittipaldi and Scott Pruitt continue to do some battling further down the field. Into the pits comes Adrian Fernandez. Michel Jourdain is already in the pit lane, and it looks as though there's a problem on Michel's car. Hopefully no problem for Adrian Fernandez, though. Refueling goes on, and they wait for the full amount of fuel to go on board, then a wave him clear, try not to stall it. That's okay. He gets away cleanly, and the Mexican's back out. He's not been running quite so quickly in the last few laps, down to 12th position. And I hope he kept an eye on the speed there, because 50 miles an hour is the limit, of course. Alonso Jr. into the pits. Apparently Fernandez was reporting a lot of understeer in that last stint. Let's hope that the new set of tyres might help to cure that. Alonso Jr. looks pretty happy. Doesn't look as though they made any changes to the wings on that car. Just the new set of tyres, and away they send him once again. Paul Tracy in the pits as well. Let's listen up on the radio. And a good clean stop for Tracy. Keep an eye on his mirrors for other cars around. And we wait still for the race leader, Max Papis, to come in. Jimmy Vasser makes his way into the pit lane. The Superman colour scheme on his car, giving us a very different view from that onboard camera. The crew goes to work. Helmets on for all team members now, of course. That is compulsory. Keeping the engine revs up, where he seems to get going once again. Yes, no problem. Papis is in, race leader. He gets away as well. Now then, is it a quick stop for Papis? Yes, it is. But Jimmy Vasser, I think, will be out ahead. Well, no, he was in the lap before, so ready? Good stop.
Go, go, go. Good job, good job.
Quick stop from Montoya, too. And he was running in 3rd position as Michael Andretti comes in. The last of the main leaders to come in. Flicks his visor open, trying to get a little bit of air. Cruising down on this speed limiter at 50 miles per hour. And we see the helmet camera again on board the Newman Haas crew member on the right front. Great shots from this camera. Now we wait to see if it's all clear. And it's time to get out of there. Away he accelerates, doesn't have to worry too much about the speed limit. And Michael Andretti gets back onto track and chases after the win here at Michigan. 107 laps have been completed. 143 laps still to go. Scott Pruitt makes his way into pit lane. So far so good. No major problems in the pits. Dennis Vitolo goes in behind Scott Pruitt there.
Okay, reset changes. Hold the brakes. Hold the clutch. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. Go, go, go.
Great stuff. Good clean stop from Scott Pruitt. And he rejoins again, keeping to that speed limit. So as they all come out again, Max Papis is back in front. Andretti second, then Montoya in 3rd place, then Kanaan 4th. He's worked his way back up in spite of that problem, but of course he hasn't made his 2nd pit stop, or 3rd pit stop.
That's correct, Ben. He will be due to make a pit stop probably within the next 8 or 10 laps, I would think, for Tony Kanaan. So that again, unless there is a caution, he will again fall off the lead lap. He desperately needs a caution at this stage in the race.
Dario Franchitti then runs behind him in 5th place. Alonso Jr. 6th. And then Paul Tracy, Cristiano D'Amato, Jimmy Vasser, Christian Fittipaldi, and Adrian Fernandez in 12th place. We still have Philip Peter with us, the Indy Lights winner from yesterday's race. I know you've got to head off in a moment, Philip. Just looking at the way this race has developed, and in fact, looking at the way your championship has developed for the moment, you are now very close to the points leader, but there are 3 of you. You're all teammates who are now top 3 in the championship. How does that work? Do you all get on with each other, or do you all hate each other because you're all going for the same title?
No, actually we go on very well, and I think that's what makes the team so strong. We're having a good time out of the track, and we're working really hard together. We're training together. We're sharing all the information between the drivers and between the engineer, and we're pushing each other. And this is what really makes the team so strong this year. I'm still in the moment of the championship with 8 points to the leader. We have still 4 races to go. It means at least 80 or 84 points. And so, you know, I'm looking really forward to the next race, which is in Detroit. I won 3 races so far, so I'm pretty in a good shape, and I won the most races in the series so far, and I'm looking forward to Detroit.
Well, thank you, Philip, for joining us here in the commentary booth this afternoon. We wish you all the best when you get to Detroit for the next race. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So let's just get back to the action here, and we're looking at a battle with Michael Andretti trying to get past some slower traffic. Tony Kanaan is in the pits now. This should be his scheduled pit stop that you were telling us about, Jeremy. He hasn't got the yellow that he wanted, has he? So that means he's going to drop back a bit here.
That's right, he is going to drop back to off the lead lap once again. But, you know, there's still a long way to go in this race. 116 laps in the books now. We're not even to halfway yet. So plenty of time for the same scenario to play out, perhaps, and it'll play in his favour next time. We'll see.
So let's take a look at this gap. 5.4 seconds between Michael Andretti and Max Papis. Now we turn our attention back to Franchitti versus Alonso Jr. I have to say it's a good run so far from Dario Franchitti. Now that was the communication to Franchitti. Alonso Jr. picking up the slipstream, but not really trying anything too dramatic at this point. And in fact, that might give Paul Tracy an opportunity to close up a bit more. Look, Tracy right behind Little Al. And a little bit more aggressive, perhaps, in this stage of the race than Alonso Jr. is prepared to be. You can see Little Al really biding his time at the moment. He's not at all bothered about taking any gambles, but he's done a fine job, moved up from 17th place to be in 5th place at the moment. Again, he moves up to the outside. Cristiano De Mata in a battle for position, also right behind them. And Junior just staying in there. He's won this race before. He won it back in 1990, and he's twice won the Indy 500. A 500-mile race, Jeremy, it is very much an animal of its own, isn't it? You can't really compare, there's De Mata going past, Dunson. You can't really compare these 500-mile races with the other races in the calendar.
That's very true. And, you know, it's the old adage in motor racing, to finish first you've got to finish. Never more appropriate than in a 500-mile race such as this one. It really is a test of man and machinery here, and the machinery has to stay under you. You don't have to make it. You've got to make sure you don't make any mistakes. And as I said, it's very grueling on the driver. It's over 90 degrees out here. It's pretty humid as well. Track temperature, I think, this morning was about 130 degrees. And in the cockpit of these cars, it's not far off 150 degrees. And then, as they go through here, through the 18-degree banking, there's as much as 4 Gs of forces exerted on the driver, and particularly his helmet. He's got to hold that helmet up in the cockpit of the car. Of course, there is padding around the helmet. That does help an enormous amount. But it's still, those G forces take a lot out of you. It really is a physical test on this kind of a racetrack.
Yes, and in these temperatures as well, as you say. But Alonso Jr. stays ahead of Cristiano De Mata for the moment. Max Papis is our race leader and has been for quite a number of laps now. Cristiano De Mata is battling there with Tony Kanaan, who's desperately trying to move back up, trying to get back up onto the lead lap. And we're hearing that Alonso Jr. is reporting back to the pits that he is very happy so far with his car.
That's good news indeed, and certainly it's good to see him running well. Of course, Marlboro Team Penske Racing still looking for that 100th victory. They've been looking now for a couple of years. Those good buddies, Kanaan and De Mata, go side by side again through turns 1 and 2. But you know what a place it would be here to pull off that 100th win for Roger Penske. He owns this racetrack. On an actual fact, on Monday, the primary ownership will be taken over by the International Speedway Corporation. That is Bill France's speedway organization based down in Daytona Beach, Florida. But still, Roger Penske, he has built this track up into what it is today. It's a pretty impressive facility.
Kanaan and De Mata slipstreaming one another, trying to help each other around this track perhaps, but remember Kanaan a lap down, rides in 13th place, whilst Cristiano De Mata is in 7th. Alex Barron in the second Penske is in the pit. And it's an engine problem as we hear, and it looks as though it's all over for Alex Barron. It is terminal, they're saying, and so sadly Alex Barron's debut for the Penske team is all over. Let's go and hear from Gilles de Ferran now.
We're looking forward to try to score some points, but I was trying hard to stay on the lead lap then, and going into one, the car is kind of, the rear stepped out a little bit, and that put me wide, and I could just kind of understeered off into the gray, and that was that.
Conditions today similar to the 500-mile conditions of last year, the first time you ran with a Hanford device?
Yeah, very similar, I think. You know, obviously we didn't have as good a handle in the car as we did last year, but I think the conditions are fairly similar.
Glad you're all right. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Problems for Cristiano D'Amato. By the looks of it, he slowed right down. And ironically, as we reach the half-distance point of this race, we're beginning to see a few more mechanical problems. We've just seen Alex Barron out of the race. Now Cristiano D'Amato seems to have some sort of problem, but he stayed out there.
Yeah, that's strange. Certainly, as he came past here last time, as Gilles de Ferran was starting to talk there, he slowed down going into turn 1. But as you say, he seems now to be picking up the speed again.
It may be a gearbox problem. We're hearing it may be some sort of transmission problem. Hopefully we'll find out soon. Max Papis is our race leader here at Michigan. Welcome back. The action continues here at over 230 miles an hour on the 2-mile Michigan Speedway. We've just seen a potential big accident, but it didn't happen, thankfully. Paul Tracy got very, very wide a moment ago, going through turns 1 and 2. It lost him several places. He's back down to 7th place. He just got up on the grey stuff, really, and it almost repeated the accident we saw to Gilles de Ferran earlier in this race. Thankfully, he just held on to it and survived in 7th place, and he's now under attack from Christian Fittipaldi. Meanwhile, Al Unser Jr. here in 5th position, again running consistently, still in behind Dario Franchitti. Tracy was a part of this little group. In fact, Tracy and Franchitti were running right behind each other when Tracy had his scary moment. I think perhaps maybe he lost more downforce than he'd allowed for following in Franchitti's wheel track, and he so nearly hit the wall on the outside of turn 2. But he has survived, and he has dropped to 7th place as Al Unser Jr. just bides his time, stays within striking distance here. 10 seconds an advantage, though, for Max Papis. That's very impressive indeed. I have to say, Max Papis driving a superb race up front as Tony Kanaan, continuing to try and unlap himself, goes past Al Unser Jr. Let's hear from Alex Barron now.
Yeah, it's all of a sudden lost a little bit of power, but the car was really hooked up, and I think we would have had a really good day. It's just unfortunate it had to end like this.
Enjoy your first ride with Penske?
Yeah, the Marlboro Team Penske is really professional. I'm really happy to be a part of it this weekend. And I really got a great opportunity this weekend. I just hope something else will happen later this season.
Yeah, we hope to see you back. Thanks.
Thank you. Gary?
Cristiano D'Amato, another man who is out as a rookie and running here with a Hanford device for the first time. How did you find the experience, Cristiano?
For me, it was pretty good. We were running top 8 all the time. We had solid pit stops. Car was running pretty good. We had some electronic problems too. Couldn't figure out what it is, but couldn't continue like that. With whatever problem it was, the engine wasn't pulling anymore.
Well, you can see the frustration there. He may be a rookie, but he knows the pain of falling out of a 500-mile race.
Well, I'm sure we'll see a few more retirements before this afternoon's over, but up front so far, Max Papis, who's doing a splendid job. I have to say, he's loves the ovals, does Max Papis, and he set out this year with one of his main ambitions, he said, was to win on an oval track. And he's impressed the team with his ability and his commitment on the ovals this season. He qualified 3rd at Motegi. As we look at a recap of the race, 14 changes of the lead, of course. That only includes at the start-finish line. You will have seen many more than that as we've watched them around the track, but official changes of the lead only count when they cross the start-finish line. Just back to his record, though, Max Papis, he was 4th on the oval at Rio, qualified 7th at Nazareth, and in fact his best result this season came on an oval. That was at Gateway when he finished 5th. He matched that result last weekend in Cleveland. So he loves the oval tracks, and the advantage he's built up is pretty impressive here. Can't even see second place behind him.
No, that's right. It's almost 10 seconds. The gap. That's not far short of half. Well, it's a 1/3 of a lap around this 2-mile oval here. And there is Max Papis again coming off. This will be lap 136 to complete. And Michael Andretti there, almost 10 seconds back in second. He's just going into turn 3 as Max Papis comes across start-finish line to go on to his 137th lap. Juan Montoya still in 3rd place. Couple of seconds behind us, P.J. Jones in the wall.
P.J. Jones has looked as though he's done almost the same as Gilles de Ferran, and that means that all those 10 seconds of advantage that Max had built up have now been eradicated because the pace cars are out. We're hearing that PJ's okay. You could hear him on the radio saying, "I'm okay," and that's good to hear. But once again, that wall has claimed another victim.
PJ was running pretty well in the latter stage of the race. Early on, he lost a couple of laps. He was actually running 3 laps down in 14th place. but he was running pretty well. He was running in company with Patrick Carpentier, who had a problem earlier on as well, and there they are unstrapping the radio connection there to PJ's helmet, enabled him to climb out of the car. Good again to see he is out of the car, and once again the wheel tethers doing their work there. You can see the right side wheels are against the wall, but so clearly held on to the chassis.
Yeah, again, there it was, just almost a carbon copy, wasn't it, of Gilles de Ferran's accident, although it stayed up to the outside. As you say, Jeremy, the wheels stayed connected to the chassis thanks to those wheel tethers, so great to see those working very effectively. And PJ's car ending up there on the right-hand side of that back stretch, so we have our second major caution period of the day, and of course it means pit stops. The leaders will be coming in here taking advantage of this caution period with 113 laps still to go.
Yeah, and good news for the leaders. They were about due for pit stop. They last stopped on lap 106 or 107 for the race leaders. Papis actually was in on 106. They've done 31 laps, so another 3 or 4 laps and they would have been due for pit stops in any case. And it's just Tony Kanano who's been trying to get that lap back. Bad news for him. If his caution had come back, come another sort of 6 or 7 laps later, he would have been out on the track still and would have been able to regain the lap that he lost earlier on. But if buts and maybes don't count in this sport, and he will remain 1 lap down.
Let's take a look at the replay. Now watch this real speed from on board PJ Jones.
That is Patrick Carpentier ahead of him there, and again you can hear him, he's out of the throttle here, he's running wide, he knows what's about to happen.
Yeah, and the picture disappeared pretty fast. That was a heavy impact. Thankfully PJ is okay. The monocoque holding up extremely well as ever. The damage done to the right suspension, but no damage done to the driver, and they should get that car out of the way fairly quickly. It's been a tough season for PJ Jones. A new team for him this year, Patrick Racing, but a lot of pressure on. They want results within that team. Ford provide the engine power there. They want to see results from their engines, and they haven't really been getting them from PJ Jones so far. He had a good result at Nazareth earlier this season, but apart from that, he's had a tough time.
Yeah, he has been struggling, certainly, to get the most out of the Swift chassis. In actual fact, we're on board here with Michael Andretti. This is also the same combination as PJ Jones, Swift, Ford Cosworth and Firestone tyres. But you know, what's interesting, about a month ago, Andretti's Newman Haas team came testing here to Michigan and struggled. They then made a lot of changes to that car. They went back to Fontana in Southern California. It was almost identical racetrack, and they found a lot of speed. But PJ Jones hasn't had that testing as we're coming in for the pit stops here. This is the 4th round of pit stops.
So, Max Papis' advantage was 10 seconds, but of course that's been eradicated by sitting behind the pace car, and now it's the battle of the pit crews and who can get their man out faster. Papis stops at the top end of the pit, 10.7 second stop, that's pretty effective. Everybody else stops in position. It looks as though Montoya and Andretti have both stopped well in position. Let's see how quickly they can get the fuel done and the tyres changed. It's 13 for Montoya and 12 for Andretti, so it looks as though Papis' crew has done it again, or has it to the line? No! Andretti just snatched it at the line.
Yeah, there's great stuff there by the Newman Haas team there, and they enabled Michael Andretti to get out ahead of Max Papis. And again, 2 Ford Cosworth engines here at the front of the field at the moment, both on Firestone tyres, and there Newman Haas just gaining one over the Team Rahal crew as he beats Papis out of the pit lane.
Great stuff though, good close battling in the pit lane as ever. Michael Andretti takes the advantage, but Max Papis may well be able to get it back when we go green. Here we go then, green flag, ready to restart the race on lap number 144, and immediately they're at it again as Max Papis ties to the inside, and Dario Franchitti goes around the outside and takes the lead for the first time here this afternoon. Dario Franchitti, an excellent restart, picked up the double toe from Michael Andretti, and Max Papis went into the lead, but will he maintain the lead to the start-finish line? No, he won't, because Max Papis slipstreams back past him again on the inside into turn number 3, and as they come around out of 4 to complete the lap, it looks as though it will be Max Papis recorded as race leader across the line this time. Franchitti coming back at him as they go into turn number 1, and Andretti and Montoya are right in there. These are the top 4 cars. Behind them, Scott Pruitt is in 5th place, but he has dropped a little bit of ground to these 4. In fact, you can see there Pruitt in the background with Tracy behind, but look at this, Papis and Michael Andretti both to the inside here of Dario Franchitti. Wonderful racing once again, and you wouldn't really think that there's still 105 laps to go.
Great stuff there, and having a little bit of fun. Just really look at the draft he gets there. Dario Franchitti pulls to the outside, and Michael Andretti thinks about making it 3 wide and thinks again that's not such a bright idea. With 107 laps to go, he eases off the throttle momentarily, and of course is promptly passed there by Juan Montoya. So that's what happens here. That's what we're in for towards the end of this race. If we've got a yellow in the closing stages, stand back.
That's right, if they all get bunched up together. Interesting in the terms of the engine manufacturers doing battle here. We have 2 Fords and 2 Hondas. Mercedes have not had a very good day, although, well, of course, they're running well with Alonso Jr. It's just that he's dropped back as a result of that last pit stop. So Al's Mercedes running well, but at the moment it's 2 Fords and 2 Hondas. I was interested to hear Honda's summary on their season so far was that they're delighted with the performance of their teams and drivers, but in fact they're not so delighted with the performance of their engine. They say that it hasn't actually reached the target that they set for it at the beginning of the year. They reckon there's more to come. They haven't got out of it what they should have done, and that's a bit of a worry for the others.
It certainly is. That's not what the opposition wanted to hear, that's for sure. And this time around there, Dario Franchitti officially takes the lead. That's the first time in this race that he has actually taken the lead of the race. Officially, he's been ahead a couple of times in other parts of the racetrack, but they're finally by 0.011 of a second, which is probably about a foot and a half, I would think. He was in the lead as they cross the start-finish line, but not for long. There comes Max Papis again as they stream into turn 3 at best part at 245 miles an hour, I'd suggest.
Absolutely. We've got Dario Franchitti, Max Papis, Michael Andretti and Juan Montoya in this lead quartet so far. 149 laps completed. Franchitti moves to the outside. Good competitive run this for Dario Franchitti. Has not yet finished one of these 500-mile races, however, in his 3 seasons of racing in the Champ Cars. Michael Andretti moves back down to the inside as well, and again plays very much a part of this battle. Montoya perhaps not quite as close last time around, just losing a little bit of the toe at this point as it's Franchitti and Papis battling for the lead. We hear that Alonso Jr. is coming in.
Yeah, I was just wondering about that because he dropped back from the leaders on that last lap around. He'd lost 4 or 5 places on the pit stop, and since then he'd fallen to the back of the train of cars, and now comes into the pit lane in 12th place, and that's bad news for Alonso Jr.
They were making some major changes. They made a big change to the rear wing, and I think they were making some changes to the front wing. Now that's a bit odd because the car's been just about ideal, he's been reporting throughout the race so far, and on this set of tyres that they put on that last pit stop, obviously the handling's gone wrong and he's having to tune it in to get it back up to pace again. Look at this 3-way battle between Papis, Franchitti and Andretti, who moves to the outside. Great racing between the 3 of them, each giving them room to the other, and it really is good fun to watch as we ride on board here with Michael Andretti.
And we hear word from the pits that it was actually the car got really loose on Alonso Jr. Good grief, look at those 3. Absolutely wheel to wheel there with Michael Andretti trying to squeeze past Papis on the outside. There is no room, and that was awfully close indeed. But Alonso Jr. makes that pit stop. He loses a lap. He is still in 12th position, but he is 1 lap down, and that stop, a costly error there. Just trying to pick up a little bit more speed by taking off that rear wicker mill from the car. It didn't work. The car was too loose. Has to come in, replace that wicker, get some more downforce on the back end of the car and go out there. Now we'll have to hope there's a caution in order to regain that lost position.
Yeah, so it could be disastrous for Alonso Jr. We may have lost him from the running. We'll have to wait and see how it pans out later in the race as we go back on board with Michael Andretti.
Tony Kanaan, meanwhile, did not stop under that caution a few laps ago, so he has taken that gamble. He has regained the lead lap again, but what's more, he is out of sequence and will be in within the next few laps to make a schedule stop. He, again, is in a position of needing a caution. At this stage in a race, the caution probably wouldn't help Alonso Jr. because the other leaders have only done 8 or 10 laps before their pit stop, so they would not now come in again. But in Tony Kanaan's case, he desperately needs a caution. Because of that same reason. He would come in, he's on the lead lap, he would make that stop under caution and wouldn't lose that lead lap position.
Interesting to see that moving up into 5th place behind this gaggle, or this quartet, really, I should say, of cars up front. We've got Christian Fittipaldi now, and he hasn't really been running that competitively for much of the race, but now, as you see, 5th place, Christian Fittipaldi. They may have made a few changes on that last stop because he's going much quicker, and he's managed to move to the head of the next queue, and in fact, he is catching this leading quartet. He's getting a bit closer to the back of Juan Montoya, so suddenly, Christian Fittipaldi, who's running in a competitive 3rd place in the championship, remember, has had 1 race win, was on the podium last week in Toronto. Again, he's becoming a feature of this race.
You're absolutely right, Ben. He's been a revelation this season, Christian Fittipaldi. We've known throughout his career the guy is fast. There's never been any doubt about that. He's been very consistent this year. That's nothing new either. But he had that first victory just a few weeks ago at Railcart Lake. It's really boosted his confidence. He had a great drive in Toronto last week. And what was interesting for me in Toronto was that fantastic move at the first corner where he moved from 6th briefly up into 3rd place. And that shows how much confidence he has gained. He knows that he's fast as anybody else out there. He's bided his time in the early part of this race. Now he has moved into a challenging position. And that is pretty interesting indeed to me.
Yes, we will watch Fittipaldi's progress with interest. Meanwhile, down in the pits, we've got a chance to hear from PJ Jones.
Unfortunately, the car is not. What happened, PJ?
Well, Patrick and I were just racing side by side, and he got in front of me, and he got up a little bit in front of me, took the air away, and I got in the loose stuff, and had no chance. He just went right in the fence. But so bad for the Visteon team and Patrick Racing. I mean, you know, we've been struggling with the car all week and the last few races, and they put a good effort in. We just didn't quite have it.
Now tell me about that, because you and Robbie Gordon have been able to get the Swift to go here, but what's up with Michael and Christian? They seem like they can.
Well, I don't know. You know, I think they have some different things that, you know, maybe we don't have, and it's a real struggle. I mean, I ran around here flat out in qualifying at 222 and with a small wicker, and they run around here at 229, so I don't know.
Oh, at least you're okay. Thanks.
Thanks.
Well, as you say, Jeremy, you mentioned that Newman Haas managed to come up with some bits and pieces on the Swift chassis to make it work, and boy, it is working. Look at that. Look at how Michael Andretti is drafting with Dario Franchitti. Absolutely evenly matched, but it has given Max Papis the chance to get ahead and has made a little bit of a break once again. It's only about a second, but Papis has got in front again. Meanwhile, Tony Kanaan has made a stop. He's still out of sequence, remember, and he hasn't had that yellow flag to help him yet. Max Papis is our race leader by 4.7 seconds. He's again opened up a fairly healthy lead. Meanwhile, down in the pits, Guelta Sales is our latest retirement, sadly. The Brazilian driving the Eagle chassis for All-American Racers. That's Dan Gurney's team. They are reporting some sort of electrical problem, I believe, and Guelta Sales is out of the race. Let's go down and hear from him.
Yes, and Guelta Sales, we saw him climb from the car. Toyota has made a lot of progress, but it didn't go for you today?
Yeah, they made great progress. Pruitt qualified 5th, Cristiano qualified 11th. We're doing, trying to bring the Toyota and the Eagle car to the end. We're running 14, like 120 laps to go, about that. And unfortunately, something happened coming out of 2. We don't exactly know if it was electrical or mechanical, but we just got a misfire coming out of 2. We tried to fix it, but we couldn't do it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So disappointment for Guelta Sales here today in that Eagle program. You really have to say they are not having a very good time of it this year. Wonder how much longer Dan Gurney's going to be able to continue with that program. He said last year he was betting the farm on that car. Well, I have to say his farm's not looking very healthy, is it?
It's not at the moment, and it's strange because the early part of the season, Alex Barron was having some pretty good performances in that car, particularly in testing. The problem, so far as Dan Gurney was concerned, Alex Barron is a relatively inexperienced driver, certainly in terms of his overall racing experience. Lots of years in karts, but only 2 years in actual racing cars, and he was thinking that perhaps they needed somebody else to take advantage of their own experience and help to develop that car, but unfortunately it's not really working out so far, at least for Guelta Sales.
Bobby Rahal is one of the spotters on the roof of the grandstand here, on the building at the top of the grandstand, keeping an eye on things for Max Papis. His man, Max Papis, is leading this race by 5.4 seconds with 75 laps to go. 150 miles still to go. A long way, but we are getting a much better picture now that Max Papis is the fastest man at this racetrack. And consistently he's been able to pull away. Let me tell you that Max has done a lot of work for this race weekend as well. A 500-mile race, of course, the longest race of the season. They have one other 500-mile race at the end of the year. Puts a lot of demand on the driver, as Jeremy was saying earlier. The high G-forces, the extremely high temperatures, and they're lapping here for nearly, well, over 3 hours they'll be driving for. And Max Papis put in an extra amount of training for this race, a specific training program put together by his training manager. Interesting to see. We had a little look at that, what he was doing this week. It involved some running on Monday. He was out on the beach, 40-minute run, 30 minutes of stretching. On Tuesday, he went to the gym, did 3 tracks of exercises, doing 15 minutes of bicycles in between. He was focusing on the shoulders, arms and abdominal muscles, and a lot of stretching as well. On Wednesday this week, he had to go running, a run for 20 minutes at 140 beats per minute. 40-minute run at 165 to 170 beats per minute heart rate, and 20 minutes at 140 beats. And then on Thursday even, the day before they got out to practice here, he was supposed to go off and ride a bike or go do some canoeing for at least an hour and a half. So that was Max Papis' training schedule this week.
Ben, I'm exhausted just thinking about it. Here is Max Papis into the pit lane one more time. This is his 5th scheduled pit stop. And, tell you what, if he begins to flag in the closing stage, I think we'll know why. But absolutely no sign of that. The young Italian is a very fit driver indeed. Good service here again from Team Rahal. And there he goes, Max Papis, back into the race. That is stop number 5 in the books for Max Papis. And everybody else will be in the fairly near future. Well, the very near future, in fact.
Yes, he gets out cleanly, and that's a slightly re-liveried car this year. The Miller Lite sponsorship, also sponsorship from Harley-Davidson. Great shot of it as it comes out of the pit lane. Here we are, Franchitti and Montoya, wheel to wheel, coming into their pit, and their battling continues, whether it's in the pit lane or on the racetrack. And of course, in the pit lane is perhaps where more advantage can be gained, because they've been towing each other for the last, well, I don't know how many laps.
Pit lane limiter on the way out, and let's have plus half a turn of front wing, Alex.
Interesting to hear they're going to put half a turn of front wing on the car. Now,
so telling that Alex Herring is the crewman on the left front there who's made that change and back into the race. Whoa, yes, there goes Dario Franchitti getting it very, very sideways there on acceleration out of the pit lane. You might remember Adrian Fernandez spun it in exactly that same location a couple of years ago, and that is it's very difficult. You come off that concrete and onto the asphalt, and a big difference in the grip coefficient on those two surfaces.
Montoya lost a bit of time there. You saw he came out behind Factor, in fact, and way behind Franchitti. Now, apparently, he was slightly out of position. Take another look at this. Watch Montoya in the target car. Now, where he stops, absolutely critical. As Jeremy said, it's more slippery on the concrete, so he may not have allowed enough for that. Watch him under braking here. Did he lock up? Yes. Right front locked up, slid into spot. Oh, and he took the air hose with him. Oh, bad news indeed for Juan Montoya. Such an easy mistake to make when you've been doing 230 miles an hour and try and judge your braking. That's one of the mistakes that's so commonly made in these 500-mile races. Meanwhile, Adrian Fernandez is ready to get going. Off he goes. Clean stop for the Mexican. No problems for him there. Michael Andretti still due to come in. There he is, coming in as I speak. And remember, his Newman Haas pit is way down at the far end of the pit lane. And there's his crewman with the onboard camera on his helmet, ready and waiting to see Michael pull in to his pit stop. Now then, let's listen up on the radio and also see whether it's a clean stop for Michael. Now look at that. Now that was how you should stop. Perfectly placed. The crew member didn't have to move at all to start removing the wheel, and a front wing change as well on that Swift chassis. Now then, this is where we begin to find out whether the drivers and engineers have called the right changes. Critical now to get it spot on. If you make a mistake in how you've tuned the front wing, you could end up being nowhere, and we've seen both Franchitti and Andretti able to run up front so far in this race. You saw Montoya in that pit lane moments ago running over the air hose, but it was only the front wheel that ran over the air hose, and the rules state if the driven wheel, i.e. the rear wheel, runs over an air hose, you pick up a penalty. It doesn't say about the front wheel, so it'll be interesting. Officially, according to the rules, Montoya shouldn't be penalized, but unless there's some other rule that they can bring into effect there when Montoya slid into his pit bay for that last stop. Remember, Montoya did pick up a penalty last week in Toronto, but that was, again, he flicked up the air hose on the exit of the pit as he came out of his pit stop, and it was a rear wheel on that occasion that ran over the air hose. Oh, right. Pruitt's off, Pruitt's in the wall, and again it looks like a repeat of the accident that we've seen once already to De Ferran, twice for PJ Jones, and now it's happened to Scott Pruitt, and the man who took pole here a couple of years ago, and he crashed on that occasion as well on about lap 170. This time it's lap 184, and Pruitt has lost control.
And that is great news. I hate to say it. Which is a great shame for Scott Pruitt, and really has driven a super race all weekend. Here's a replay there again, exactly the same thing. Just gets high there coming through turn 2, slides up into the wall. Absolutely nothing he can do at that stage. Great shame. He's been running, as I say, a super job this weekend, a magnificent qualifying effort for Scott Pruitt. A great effort by Toyota this weekend, and there he is sliding along the wall there. But as I said, it's great news for both Tony Kanaan and Al Unser Jr., who had been out of sequence on their pit stops. They were in need of a pit stop. They will now be able to come in when the pits are opened, and that's not been the case yet because the pace car has not yet picked up the race leader.
So Scott Pruitt becomes the third victim of the wall, and it just shows you how difficult it is to get it right, particularly in that traffic. If you get a couple of cars in front of you and the downforce on your car is disrupted, the veterans can get it wrong as well. Scott Pruitt just misjudging it, presumably going in that little bit too quick, perhaps picking up more turbulence than he expected, running wide, and once it's going wide, there's just nothing you can do about it. So Pruitt's out. Papis is still our race leader. Papis leads them round then. Dennis Vitola will be pushed back to the back of the queue, I think, in a moment. And Max Papis, with some 58 laps to go, is heading towards green flag. This time I do believe the race will restart. Now, there will be, I think, one more round of pit stops before the end of this race. They will need to stop one more time, but Max Papis already trying to make the break as everybody else seems to gather together as they battle over second place, and Paul Tracy suddenly appears out of nowhere.
Yeah, the reason for them all bunching up together was Michael Andretti was completely caught napping at that restart, and Papis just left him for dead. He was at 1.2 seconds clear as they crossed the line, and Andretti absolutely swamped by particularly the Team Cool green entries of Paul Tracy and Dario Franchitti, as they are side by side in turns 3 and 4.
Now, are they going to work together here? Franchitti's down on the inside at the moment. Paul Tracy's up on the outside as they battle over second place. But battle perhaps is not the right word. At this point, they've still got to work together. They've still got to plan it and try and use each other's slipstream to catch up to Max Papis, who has pulled away an advantage of 1.2 seconds, as you say, Jeremy. Michael Andretti, who got caught out at the restart, now joins in the battle again, and Christian Fittipaldi is just a second or so further back.
Yeah, and if they were smart, these guys, they'd really work together for a while and tow themselves up to the race leader and then start battling. You don't want to lose ground unnecessarily, of course, at this stage in the race, but also you don't want to overtax your equipment either. Still 55 laps remaining. That's 110 miles, and Michael Andretti diving down to the inside of Dario Franchitti once again.
Franchitti stays up wide, and the two of them exit turn number 2, where all the tyre marks have made their presence on that wall on the outside. Michael Andretti now goes to the inside into turn 3. This is the long sweeping at the top end of the track. Paul Tracy's dropped back a little bit. Look how close they get, both to each other and to the wall as they come out of turn number 4. Dario Franchitti maintains that second place over Michael Andretti, but they need to work together a little bit here to close up to Max Papis. Still a good chance, I guess, with 54 laps to go, of another yellow or two before the end of this race, so it may not matter too much, but you never know. It could go clean all the way to the end, and if it did, even with a pit stop, that would help Max Papis.
Yeah, I don't understand what Michael Andretti is playing at this stage of the race. He needs to tuck in there behind Dario Franchitti and just make the move up towards the front. By getting side by side, they're slowing each other down. You know, I'm really amazed by Michael Andretti. You should know better than that. If he'd have watched the Indy Lights race yesterday, he would have noticed that Casey Mears stuck in behind a Philip Peter. You can hear that Andretti lifting as he came off turn 2. Casey Mears stuck right in behind Philip Peter, and he was actually half throttle most of the way around the racetrack. But when two cars run nose to tail, they go faster than do two cars running side by side. They really help each other in the draft, and I think Michael Andretti could do with a little discretion, a little more discretion at this stage in the proceedings, but we'll see.
Yeah, it does seem strange that then nobody's thinking of that. Of course, it means, as you say, the driver behind almost on half throttle, but if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. And of course, save a bit of fuel doing that as well, and you won't have to put so much fuel in. That's Dario Franchitti reporting back to his pit saying he needs more wing. He's not happy. He needs a little bit more wing. Now, presumably, he's talking about a bit more rear wicker. I would imagine. We'll have to see what happens
How much asked on holiday?
Now, he said he's going to adjust the weight jacker as well. Now, that's interesting. On board, in the cockpit of these cars, they have an adjustment for the weight jacker. What that means is that they can actually affect the way that the balance of the chassis sits on the tyres. It's the weight jacking, it's the corner weights, as we would tend to call it in the European racing. They can adjust that in the cockpit. In fact, it almost caught Adrian Fernandez out in qualifying because he was so busy fiddling with it, he hit the wrong button.
He did. He hit the one of the turbo boost button. It's not the turbo boost, the fuel mixture button to give him a bit more extra power. It wasn't extra power he needed. It was a bit of better handling. What it actually does, it operates on one corner of the car, generally the left front of the car, and it slightly raises the spring rate in that corner of the car, or raises the spring seating, I should say, in that corner of the car, and that transfers weight across to the right rear corner, or the opposing side of the car, or up or down, whichever way they want to go, to alter the mechanical balance of the car. We've talked about people in this race changing the wicker bills on the rear wing and adding a bit of front wing angle as well. That's altering the aerodynamic balance of the car, and by altering the weight jacker there, they change the mechanical balance of the car, and that's the way they try and get these cars balanced. There's no push, there's no oversteer, they're just nicely balanced, sliding all four wheels on the edge of adhesion as they go through the turns. That's the key to getting a nicely balanced race car. That is what's going to take you to the front.
Yes, and that's what they've got to decide on, how they change the car in the last pit stop that is still due to come. Look at Montoya. He's made up some ground in this last little bit. Remember, he dropped to 8th as a result of his slow pit stop earlier on, and now he's worked his way back up into 5th place and setting some quick times. So Montoya right on the pace here this afternoon. Jimmy Vasser not running so well. He's dropped down to the tail of these cars on the lead lap. He's now down in 10th place. So Vasser, who you would expect perhaps to be the real expert at getting his car to handle its best as he goes through the race, has dropped back, and as you can see, some 6.1 seconds behind race leader Max Papis. Continuing around with 47 laps to go. Dario Franchitti and Michael Andretti battle over second place with Fittipaldi in there as Max Papis continues to hold on to that advantage up front.
Max Papis, I would imagine, is grinning broadly inside that Italian flag helmet there, the white, green and red colours of Italy on his helmet. I think he's grinning broadly. He's just edging away from this battle for second place. And look at those guys. There they are, side by side again, both the second and third and fourth. And all the while, Max Papis is going to ease away at the front of the field. 2.1 seconds that lap. Another 0.4 of a second. Max Papis is able to add to his lead.
Tracy has now joined into this little group. Now, remember Paul Tracy in the last race of last year? That was the chase for $1 million at Fontana, almost the same racetrack, a repeat of this track built in California. Tracy was all set to win the race in Fontana until, incredibly, he lost it on the restart, lost control of the car on the restart, spun it across the track and ended his race against the inside wall. But Tracy here today has been very patient, waited, bided his time, and now he's really beginning to feature in this lead battle. Papis up front, you can see the gap back to second place, Franchitti, then it's Tracy and Andretti side by side with Montoya right behind him. Max Papis up front, keeping his nose clean, staying out of trouble, looking for his first career win, and a number of first career wins have come here in Michigan. Pancho Carter back in 81, John Paul Jr. in 83, the great Emerson Fittipaldi took his first Champ Car victory here at Michigan in 85, Scott Goodyear, another man to take his first win, and Alonso Jr. surely in trouble this time. It's an engine problem we're being reported to us, and he slowly coasts his way into pit lane.
Shame for Alonso Jr. there. This is his 266th Champ Car start and he switches off that Mercedes engine. The end of the day, once again, for Marlboro Team Penske and Alonso Jr. Around about this time in the race last year, he'd actually just taken the lead of the race, and he pulls out at that stage there. That was a crushing disappointment. I don't know whether he had a car to win this race today, but he certainly had a strong car, and he was looking for a good finish, and certainly it has been a good weekend for Marlboro Team Penske, and very good indeed to see that Penske PC27B chassis running so well all weekend.
Yes, refreshing to see that as we watch the battle still going on between Michael Andretti and Paul Tracy. Juan Montoya right up with them now, and well, just looking at it is an engine problem confirmed for Alonso Jr. Some sort of engine trouble, and it means that the first Mercedes runner in this race now is down in 10th place. It's Patrick Carpentier, but he's 2 laps behind the cars on the lead lap. So not a good day for Mercedes here for a variety of reasons, not just engine problems. They're drivers or teams running into various problems though today, and it just hasn't come together for them. Meanwhile, Tony Kanaan there, he's still going well. 6th place for Tony in this little battle with Christian Fittipaldi, and we have 41 laps to go. It does begin to get a little more serious now, and within about 10 laps, or a little bit more than 10 laps, we will expect to see the last round of pit stops, which will be completely crucial. Down in pit lane, Alonso Jr. has clambered out of his stricken Penske. Let's hear from him.
Here. Alonso Jr. very disappointed, obviously. We're going to try and jump here and find out. Al, quickly, what happened?
Just something in the engine. We lost engine power. Really, we had a real good race car all day. We kind of messed it up trying to go a little bit quicker with taking that wicker out, but we're very lucky and fortunate to get that lap back. And then, but I tell you, you know, my tires are good for me all day. Goodyear did a super job for us. And what can I say? You know, we just keep trying. And if I could have led the thing and not have anybody in front of me, we could have gone away. But following people, you know, they finally got quick enough that they'd steal my front end away from me just enough to where I couldn't pass them.
Interesting comments there from Alonso Jr. The Penske are very pleased with the aerodynamics on that car. It's very low drag. So what he was basically saying was he felt that the low drag Penske, if it got in front, it didn't need the toe to be able to pull away. But of course, he never got that opportunity to get in front and pull away.
No, it's a shame, but certainly a very good and encouraging run there for the guys at Penske Cars in Poole, England there. They've been had some disappointments this year as Unser has preferred to concentrate on the Lola chassis. Now he's in the Penske and he's really had a good run. Look at Montoya there. Fantastic slipstream there. Goes right past from 4th to 2nd in one fell swoop there. Great move by Juan Montoya, and he now is beginning to make a move towards the front.
Well, we watch that one with interest. He will be coming in, as you say, and unless he gets a yellow, if he gets a yellow, it's basically that's his race. But if there isn't a yellow, he's still got that advantage of the fact that his stop could be a bit less because there won't be quite so much fuel to put in to get into the checkered flag. And that might mean he is still going to be a feature in this race. He may well be able to get out in front of Max Papis.
And Tony Kanaan is absolutely flying. 32.2 last time around. That is an average speed of 223.5 miles an hour. And into the pit lane now is Tony Kanaan. A crucial stop for the Forsyth Championship Racing Team.
The McDonald's drive-through crew, as the pit crew is called, they're all set to refuel and get tyres on Tony's car. He's got to watch that 50-mile-an-hour limit. It feels as though it takes forever to get to his pit bay, which is just down in front of us. Good clean stop. Slides into the right place.
Steve Reagan and the crew there. Steve Reagan on the right front wheel. They're changing that in. In goes the fuel. Four fresh fast that time. A great stop again for Kanaan's crew. They're just waiting for the fuel. There he goes. Gets the signal. He's back in the race. Is he going to beat down Max Papis?
I don't think so. There goes Max Papis across the line. And of course, Tony had to be on the speed limit initially. And now there goes Papis back into the lead as Kanaan builds up his pace. I wonder where he will be once everybody has sorted themselves out. Papis is race leader. Kanaan rejoins in 2nd position now. And look at the lead that Papis has. That's amazing. Papis has such a healthy lead. Kanaan's now into 2nd place. 3rd is Franchitti with Andretti battling with him. And we've just got 22 laps to go here.
That's right, Ben. When they went in for those pit stops, the lead for Max Papis was around about 4 seconds over the number 4 car of Juan Montoya. Now the gap that he has from 1st to 2nd place is 1 second over Michael Andretti. So can Tony Kanaan track down Max Papis? That is the key question. I don't think anybody else can catch Max Papis, and it's a long way to go for Tony Kanaan. He's now up to full speed and well clear of this battle of a third place. There goes Frank Giddy again, inside Michael Andretti.
Well, these three still at it. Montoya's just slightly out of picture there, but he is right in the battle between Franchitti and Andretti. And look at these three, so close. Montoya's picked up such a good toe here. He goes past Michael. He might get past Dario in one go as well, not quite. But Montoya is flying here. Bobby Rahal apparently has been onto the radio to Max Papis to say, this is your race, Max, just go for it. And he's up front with a 3-second advantage over Tony Kanaan, 7.5 seconds over this battle for third position.
And Max Papis, he took the lead on lap 84, and he has really controlled the race since then. An exemplary drive by the Italian driver. And Max Papis there, he is 29 years old. This is his 50th Champ Car start, and he is looking victory in the face. Can he become the 9th different winner in this year's FedEx Championship Series? There are just 19 laps remaining.
Juan Montoya, the only driver to win more than once this year. Every other race, every other driver's only managed to win once so far. And Max Papis could add to that list. I mean, wouldn't it be wonderful to have another race winner on the ranks?
18 to go, 18 laps to go.
You heard it from Chip Ganassi. I don't need to tell you. 18 laps to go as Ganassi radioing to Juan Montoya. I don't quite know what else he can say. It's up to Montoya now to battle and use the slipstream. And look at that, he's got away again. Montoya's car is very quick, you know, in clean air, and he's got away from these two, and he may now be able to go on a chase for Tony Kanaan.
No, I don't think he's going to catch Tony Kanaan. Tony Kanaan at the moment is the fastest car on the racetrack. He pulls there another 0.4 of a second off the lead of Max Papis. 1.9 seconds between first and second. There goes Montoya ahead of Andretti and Franchitti. How much time have they spent side by side in this race, Ben?
But what you're saying, Jeremy, is critical. Tony Kanaan, I didn't realise how quickly he was going. He's got the gap down between himself and Papis down to under 2 seconds now. There is Tony Kanaan. He is the fastest man. He is catching Max Papis, and Papis suddenly, after having everything within his grasp here, now has to see the fact it's closer again. 0.2 of a second every lap at the moment for Tony Kanaan, and there are 16 laps still to go. So this is amazing stuff from Tony Kanaan. He spent so much time this weekend working to get the car comfortable in traffic, particularly. At the moment, if anything, he's running in clean air.
Absolutely, he's running in clean air. Traffic not a factor here at all, and Tony Kanaan is piling on the pressure. Look how that lead has come down. Once Tony Kanaan got back up to speed on lap 230, he has whittled away that advantage. This time around, 1.8 seconds. So Max Papis retaliates a little bit. The gap has stabilised.
It has stabilised. Last time around, fastest across the line that time, in fact, was Jimmy Vasser.
Yeah, was it? I'm not surprised, Ben, because he's been flying. Last time around, he made up 2 places. And this lap as well, he passed Dario Franchitti, and Jimmy Vasser now is up into 4th place. There he is, second in the line there behind his teammate. Juan Montoya there on the back again. There is once again Dario Franchitti and Michael Andretti side by side.
Great stuff. Paul Tracy there as well. But what about Vasser? Maybe he has got his car working well for the last stint of this race. And there we are riding on board with Jimmy as he comes up behind his teammate Juan Montoya. And Jimmy Vasser with the Superman colours this weekend is absolutely flying now. Watch it. He's had to lift a little bit there. You could see how careful they have to be in traffic. If you get into the slipstream of somebody halfway through the corner, you really have to ease off the throttle. And Vasser now hunting down his teammate, who's been so successful this year, and Jimmy's had such a tough time of it. But what an opportunity here at Michigan with just 13 laps to go. Moves out of the slipstream, down low as they head down into turn 1. Jimmy Vasser will have to see Montoya no doubt come back past him though, picking up the toe once again as they go up the back stretch. Jimmy moving to the inside a little bit. He doesn't want Montoya to come past immediately, but Montoya is having none of it. He's straight back past Vasser.
That didn't last long, though. I think he scrubbed off a little speed there going into turns 3 and 4, and I think Vasser will have a run on him again, coming down the front straight. Look at him closing in there. Look at that as he goes to the outside and goes around Juan Montoya into turn 1.
Not quite. Not quite. Montoya holds it down tight and is so quick through turn 1 and 2 on that low line. He stays in front. What's happening up ahead, by the way? Better keep an eye on the gap between Papis and Kanaan. What's the latest?
1.4 seconds, Ben. Last lap round. There is the gap between first and second. And Tony Kanaan again is running consistently. Max Papis, the last couple of laps, has dropped a couple of tenths a second per lap. 32.8 last 2 laps around here. And that has enabled...
Oh, Vasser's in. Vasser's in the pits. What's happened to Jimmy Vasser? Something disastrous has happened to Jimmy Vasser. What have they done? Have they run him out of fuel? What's going on? They can't be out of fuel because there's 11 laps to go. Something has happened to Jimmy Vasser. I don't know what it is, but it looks as though it's all gone wrong again for Vasser. What else could go wrong this year? I just don't know what he has to do to get some luck this season. It's not happening for him at all. But meanwhile, the battle goes on between Franchitti, Andretti and Tracy. Andretti at the back of this group now as Franchitti runs 4th, Tracy 5th, and Andretti for the moment in 6th place. So Michael Andretti still trying to pick up the slipstream here. Back to turn number 3, and Tracy and Franchitti are side by side. Andretti joins in, but still we watch the gap up front between Papis and Kanaan. And in fact, on the last lap, Papis, it had gone down to 1.1 seconds. Now it's up to 1.4 seconds. You can hear Franchitti's radio just briefly there, being told to take the high line, so he pops up wide and slipstreams past Paul Tracy once again. There's nothing in it between these three. It seems as though none of them here are able to make that little bit of a break. And we're hearing it was fuel for Vasser. They did not get all the fuel on board last time. So it was fuel for Vasser. And, well, that's the way it goes, I suppose. Remember Milwaukee, when they put fuel in when they really didn't need to? That lost him the win then. And now this time, not getting the fuel in has meant that he has no chance. He's now dropped down to 9th place. And, of course, he's not on the lead lap any longer. And Vasser's out of the equation. Papis leads. The gap is back up again. Papis has pulled away again from Kanaan. It's now 1.7 seconds as this incredible dive continues for 4th place.
Yeah, we're inside the final 20 miles here. Just 8 laps to go, 7 laps to go there as Max Papis goes through to complete lap 243. And he is 1.9 seconds ahead now of Tony Kanaan. And Montoya is clear in 3rd place. But this is a real battle. 4th, 5th and 6th.
It's vital stuff as well. Remember, Montoya leads the championship. He is ahead of his main rivals because Montoya runs 3rd. Tracy now, I think, is in 4th. I can't keep up with them. They're changing so often. Yes, Franchitti's at the back of that group now. And this battle between these 3 cars is going to be decided, I think, really on the last lap. As long as they make it that far, they're so close to touching. And they've got to be careful. And in fact, there, they all managed to get themselves a bit more spaced out because they were so busy moving all over the road.
Think about the last lap.
Save it up for the last lap, Dario's being told. Absolutely right. There are 6 laps to go, and you've got to time your attack. Remember how Greg Moore did it last year. He timed it to perfection last year with Vasser and Zanardi. And meanwhile, Dario's got to watch out here because he's going to lose the toe if he's not careful. That's Andretti and Tracy, side by side through turns 3 and 4. 2 veterans of oval track racing. Across the line they come to complete another lap. That's 5 laps to go now. Max Papis still race leader. Still this battle continues for 4th position. And Papis has managed to pull away up front. It's up to 2.6 seconds between Papis and Kanaan. Kanaan is lonely in 2nd. He's 3 seconds ahead of Juan Montoya.
You heard the call there. 4 laps to go there. Max Papis in control of this race. Tony Kanaan in 2nd place. The fastest man on the road is Juan Montoya in 3rd place, but he's still 3 seconds behind Tony Kanaan. Other things remaining equal, he will not be able to close down that gap. This is the battle we're watching. 4th, 5th and 6th there. Tracy holding off there. Michael Andretti dives past Dario Franchitti one more time. I'd be amazed to know how many times these 2 have traded positions during this 250 lap race. I'd love to have a look at that onboard camera afterwards and analyse it, Ben. There he goes again, Michael Andretti this time, down to the inside.
240 miles an hour, wheel-to-wheel dicing for 500 miles. That's about what it's been for Michael Andretti and Dario Franchitti here today. Dario perhaps just playing it a bit patient. There is our race leader, Max Papis. He drives for Team Rahal. Bobby Rahal no longer the driver, he is the spotter today. Is he going to see his man come through to take his first ever victory and the first win for Team Rahal since last year when Brian Herta took victory towards the end of the season at Laguna Seca? Papis deserves a win, there's no doubt. He's driven superbly here today, but I just cannot say what's going to happen in this battle for fourth position. Just 2 laps to go this time then as they go across the line. Tracy, Andretti, and then Franchitti. Fernandez is behind them and not that far behind them either, so they've got to watch out for Adrian Fernandez joining in.
That's absolutely right. He's joining in the front as well. Adrian Fernandez doesn't want to be left out, but there he is, Max Papis, off turns 3 and 4 for one more time. This will be the white flag. There it is from Jim Swintel. One more lap, just 2 miles for Max Papis.
2 years ago, Alex Zanardi took his first oval victory here at Michigan, and it looks as though it's another Italian, a good friend of Zanardi, who is going to take his first Champ Car victory here today. Max Papis, the popular character, the big man of Champ Car racing, is going to come through to take his first ever win on the Michigan Speedway after 500 miles. He's slowed down. Canard, he's gone past. He's run out of fuel. Canard is going to take the win. And Tony, is he? There goes Montoya. Oh my goodness me, he's cut that fine. Canard takes a checkered flag, but Montoya was going about 30 miles down faster as he crossed the line. And Tony Canard, what a fabulous drive there, Ben. What a great finish. But what tragedy for Max Papis. I don't believe it. Max Papis was just a matter of yards away from winning his first ever race, and it's all gone wrong for him. He can't believe it. He's driven across the grass, he's into pit lane, and Tony Kanaan has taken his first ever win. It's the McDonald's car, but boy, Montoya so nearly took it at the line.
That makes me so angry. 100 to 1 I could have got on that. I'm not a betting man. I should be, shouldn't I? What a great drive, though. He's come back. He came from a lap down. The McDonald's team worked so hard to regain that lap. Kanaan drove a brilliant race. Great strategy by Steve Horn and the crew. And heartbreak from Max Papis. He deserved victory today.